Hi everybody, it's John back with another model inbox review. Today we've got an interesting one because there's actually a buddy build going on at the moment for a streamer called Moss6510 who's doing a Roy Cross buddy build, because as you may or may not know, Roy Cross, the fella that did all the artwork for a lot of Airfix kits between the mid 1960s and mid 1970s, unfortunately he passed away on the 24th of April this year, at the tender age of 100 years old and 1 day. So he had a really good innings, but he'd been much loved, much missed by his family, and he was much loved by Airfix model buyers, collectors, builders, collectively, because he did most of the most interesting artwork that Airfix endeavoured to print for their box tops, and although most of his work is now destroyed, there's an awful lot of his artwork still on millions of boxes all over the world, from Airfix kits from the mid 1960s to the mid 1970s. But what kit are we doing today? Well, this should give it away big style, because this is a Rheinmetall 88mm anti-aircraft stroke anti-tank gun. It's a field gun, really. It was fielded by Germany during World War II, and it is the famous 88mm anti-aircraft gun that was built by Airfix, and Airfix is the subject of the kit that we're going to be building today. I just want to show you the other half of the kit that you get. That's the gun there. You also get this SD Kfz-7 German half-track, which was built by a company called Kraus Maffei, among others. And this just gives you an ideal example of the capacity of this 8-ton half-track. It could carry an awful lot of men. It wasn't particularly economical, but it was the most reliable German half-track in World War II. In actual fact, it was one of the most reliable half-tracks, probably second only to the White's half-track that the USA fielded during World War II. And this thing was utilised on every theatre in World War II, from the desert to the eastern and western fronts, and Germany utilised it very heavily. So anyway, the Airfix kit, it first appeared in 1967. Let's just clear this off for you. First appeared in 1967, believe it or not, in a Series 2 bag kit. It was always released for an awful long time in desert sand plastic, as you can see here. And one of the other interesting things about this kit is that it was never released with decals or transfers. The kit, it was just never released with decals whatsoever. But the standard colour scheme that you got with the model was depicting a German half-track and 88mm that was utilised during the Western Desert Campaign, probably around about 1941-42. But that was the early 1967 release, which came in a bag in Series 2, and then in Series 2 in 1967 the Type 3 box appeared. This would have been a midsummer, I would have thought, around about that sort of era in 1967, and the kit, it was released that year, and it was absolute cutting edge. It was so good. The kit, you know, I mean, Hornby Hobbies released it not so long ago, as you'll see in a minute. But the kit was cutting edge. It was years ahead of its time. It was definitely competitive against any other kit that was on the market. And it appeared in, as I said, in 1967. The next throwing came from MPC, and this was an El Alamein battle diorama set, but it utilised a couple of odds and ends here and there. I think you basically had the 88mm gun and the tractor, and I think you got the Airfix Africa core in the set as well. And there may have been an Allied adversary set comprising of, I don't know, perhaps a Lee Grant tank and some 8th Army figures, which would have come in the other opposing set that came with it. But this appeared in 1972, and it was produced by MPC, but it is actually the Airfix kit that you got in the box, repopped by MPC. 1972 went on to 1973, and you've got the Type 4C box here. Not really much more difference. It's the same Roy Cross artwork, as you can see. His work was very atmospheric. It was very interesting to see and that was the 1973 Type 4C boxing. Then in 1978 you had what I called the Planetoid label, and there were two releases of these in the late 1970s. The first one appeared in 1978, and it just had 88mm gun and tractor written in white writing on the top of the box. The Airfix logo here is quite elongated, and that's why I call it a Planetoid label. And then in 1979 you had another Planetoid label release, but this time it's 88mm gun and tractor, and then again written in French underneath. Again, the same Roy Cross artwork. It was never changed whatsoever. It was fantastic as well. I really loved his artwork. It was great. 1979, Airfix went on to 1982, and MPC released the German 88mm flat gun and tractor again, but this time just as a standard kit. For the American market, that was 1982. And then in 1983, Airfix was bought by a company called General Mills, who went over to a new style of boxing which utilised a photograph of the model subject sat on top of, in this case it's a map. Usually it was blueprints of something or another, but these were marketed by, I believe, it was either Mattel or Palitoy, I can't remember, I think it was Palitoy, who marketed the kits for General Mills in Europe during the early 80s. That was 1983. Then in 1986, the kit fell under the ownership of Borden Incorporated, and the group that was responsible for marketing Airfix kits in Europe and Hella kits in Europe, because they came under those guises as well, was Humbrol Group. And Humbrol Group, of course, is now part of Hornby Productions. But you can always tell a General Mills, not a General Mills, a Borden Incorporated, by this white border around the artwork. And 88mm gun and tractor was still utilised, but this time it's in blue writing with a big massive Airfix logo there. That was 1986. Then in 1992, again, you've got the same similar style of release, but this time they introduced flying hours. In the first release with the flying hours, you had the Airfix flying hours logo in the middle of the photograph, the artist work from Roy Cross. And then in 1996 it was put into the top right hand corner of the artwork, but it was basically the same kit inside. I do believe it was still desert yellow plastic inside the box, but if anyone out there knows differently, just pop it in the comments, because it's always interesting to know extra information. 1996 went on to 2002. 2002 was under the ownership of Maguire and McGuinness, and they put skill level boxings on the top of the boxing. So still Roy Cross's artwork, as you can see, nothing has changed. But you have 88mm written in black, gun and tractor written in yellow. In some cases, with different releases, the yellow could have been the 88mm and gun and tractor could have been written in black. It really depends on which boxing and which stage in their releases that they produce the boxes, which way around these colours would have been. But that was 2002, and then in 2008 you had the last release from Maguire and McGuinness, still under the Humbrol Group boxings here, because this silver swirl that goes underneath the artwork, that was a Humbrol last ditch attempt at releasing kits prior to the Hornby buyout. But this, of course, was during the period when Hornby owned the product, because Hornby bought Airfix in 2006. So this would have been some of the old boxes that were left over from Maguire and McGuinness, but as you can see, it has an A prefix in front of the serial number, and that's how you know it's a Hornby Hobbies release and not a Maguire and McGuinness release. Anyway, 2008 led on to 2012, and Hornby Hobbies released their famous red boxing. You can see here that the kit is depicting a desert yellow from the Western Desert Campaign, but it's still Roy Cross's artwork. It's been photoshopped slightly because there's not as much detail in the background, and I think it's to simplify the actual image, but it is still Roy Cross's artwork. I always love the fact that he got energy into his pictures. you can see the forward motion in the canvas coat top there of the roof of the tractor, and you can see the shadows on the side of the gun blast shield there for the 88mm. You know, he brought a real sense of atmosphere into his pictures. The last rendition of this kit that was released by Hornby Hobbies is as a vintage classic in 2018, and you can still get these probably second hand on eBay. There'll be new boxings unopened, and there's still plentiful and easy to acquire. Some shops might still have some stock of this kit somewhere along the line, because 2018, although it was nearly 7 years ago, it's not that long ago, and some model shops, you might be surprised, they might still have some stock of these kits somewhere around. Anyway, just want to show you a couple of images. The last image rather. This is an image of the real 8-ton SD Kfz Kraus Maffei German half-track that was utilised to tow the 88mm gun in all theatres of operations throughout World War II. But it's interesting that this one is actually crewed, I believe, by Soviet... No, they are German troops. They're German. You can see the German tunics at the back there. These are German troops. And I believe they're troops on the Eastern Front. There's another SD Kfz-7 at the back behind them there. That's probably another 88mm gun unit with a tractor. And it's just an interesting image that you can see. You know, you can see how the thing was utilised and how it was brought together. So anyway, what I want you to do now is just to come down and have a look at this kit that I've got here that I'll be doing the buddy build with for Moss. Let's get this down. I'm hoping it will come down and stay down. It usually, this stand is a bit of a nightmare, but it usually does do the job eventually. Right, here we go. This is the first release by Hornby Hobbies in 2008. As you can see, the prefix A02303 on the boxings, and it's the last vintage issue of Hornby Hobbies. They released a lot of kits from Airfix in this silver swirl on the bottom here, and again the writing is written in yellow and black underneath. We'll just have a look at the sides of the box. It's just information there, a reiteration of the artwork. So upside, I always make it funny that it's upside down. You've got colour call outs here. There's only 2 colours on the call out, and that's probably the only 2 colours, although I might use a bit of silver here and there. But not much else going. Kit's moulded in 76th scale, which is 00HO, and it's a skill level 2, so that's interesting. We'll just open the box so you can have a look. There's not actually a huge amount to go through here. We'll have a look first of all at the instructions. Again, I'm not going to go pedantic through it, but it's an A4 sheet of paper that opens up into an A3 sheet of paper. And your instruction leaflet is in 11 steps. There's quite a lot of this kit is designed to not be glued together, because quite a lot of parts are supposed to move. But I wouldn't be too interested in trying to get the tracks to move on the back, because that spindle sprocket there is supposed to be glued and the tracks are supposed to move around with that, so that will stop your tracks moving straight away. But basically you start with this chassis and the front axle, and then section 2 you're putting all your half-track wheels together, putting them on one side of the chassis, that's the port side, and then putting them on the starboard side with your front wheels in section 3. Quite easy. The leaf spring suspension on the half track is built into the side of the chassis wall, so there's no worries about that. Then you've got your body pan in section 4, and then section 5 you're putting your interior together. It's quite easy. Steering wheel, there's 4 figures in this kit, they all fit into the tractor, which is great. Then you put the forward bonnet assembly and the front grille, windshield, the other 3 crew members and the instrument panel into place. There's even a couple of lights there that go on the mud guards, which is quite nice. Section 7, you're putting the canvas roof in place with the 2 vulcanized rubber tracks. It's telling you to glue those. You probably... We'll see how it goes. I might staple them yet, I don't know. Then in section 8 you've got your bogie wheel assemblies with the suspension units there that go for the transit of the 88mm gun. And then you've got the gun platform there. Again, there's moving parts on all of these, so all the wheels move on this kit. Section 10, you've got the 88mm piece with the blast shield there at the front, some of the mechanics and aiming wheels are all there, and then you assemble the towing bar, the gun, the actual trestle, and all the bogies together all at the same time. And I think the bogies are designed to just press in place, so that's quite nice as well. So there's not a lot to the kit in terms of quite a few parts, but there's not an awful lot of headaches to be encountered. On the back of the instruction leaflet, you've got the colour call out again on the bottom there, the name of the kit and serial number, and then you've got colourway 63. There is some matte black to paint as well, which are 33 tyres. I might pick out a couple of bits and bobs on the gun as well in matte black, which is quite interesting. But 63 is desert sand. They call it buff, but it's actually desert sand, umbral colour. So that's the instructions, not a lot to worry about there. Let's have a look at the kit. It's still sealed in the box. You've got an Airfix club thing here, which is an out-of-date Airfix club thing. There's a parts request form at the back. A lot of collectors like those sort of things. What we'll do, the bag's still sealed, so we'll just open the bag up with a pair of scissors. God, these scissors are horrendous. Right, into there. And then we'll take the plastic out and we'll have a look at this. We're not going to go too mental with the plastic because the parts on this kit, I'll be honest with you, they're nothing to write home about in terms of fantastic detail and whatnot. But they are interesting to have a look at them. Right, first of all, let's have a look at the vulcanised rubber tracks. A lot of people don't like these things, but I think for this sort of scale they're alright, and as long as you clean them up and they do adhere together quite nicely, you should be alright. Don't try and use polystyrene cement on these, try and use super glue or staples. Airfix actually advised me once to put these together with staples if you've got covers that go over them, but this kit hasn't got covers to go over them, so you'll probably have to use either super glue or some form of glue that's not polystyrene, because polystyrene cement won't glue those tracks together at all. Right, you've got quite a number of sprues here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sprues. There's a loose part there, but don't worry about that, it's just come off this sprue, so I'll just put that wheel back in there because there's lots more wheels on here. Right, on the first sprue you've got the body and forward mudguard section to the kit for the SD Kfz-7 German half-track. It's quite a big machine actually. It's probably about the size of a Bedford QL refueler. It's that big. You've got the side panniers there for entry, easy entry in and out of the vehicle's main compartment, seat compartment. And then you've got your wheels. They're quite nicely detailed, aren't they? You know, I think that they're quite nice. The tread pattern on them is quite nice. And then you've got the bits and bobs. There's some lights here. Steering wheel. I think that's a wheel steering shaft. You've got some bits and bobs that go on the gun. They're the wheel hubs and one of the suspension leaf spring sets that go on the bogies for the wheels. So there's not much to write. As I said, you know, the parts are sort of run of the mill. Really, they're nothing to worry about, nothing to, you know, focus on too much. You've got your front axle, it's quite nicely detailed. Not a lot of flash on this kit when you think this kit is probably 40 years old when this was moulded. There are your bogie assemblies, quite nicely detailed. I think they'll paint up all right. Your windshield. Obviously in 1967 moulding you wouldn't have got glass in those days, but there's nothing stopping you putting some plastic card in there behind the shield frame. The bonnet, there's your more wheels there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the wheels for the half track and the bogies. They're all the same. I think this is the rear the rear section to the internal compartment for the tractor, and then you've got the rear section, the rear actual wing, if you like. Some of the seats, they're quite nicely moulded as well. Again, nothing to write home about, and that's the front grille, which is quite nicely moulded too. That'll paint up nice. Not a bad looking kit. We'll look at that later, last. But look, there's the gun trestle for the 88mm. Not bad, not bad at all. Then you've got some of the fixings and the blast shield, the foot plate that goes underneath the trestle, some more features, axles, leaf springs. It's all nicely moulded, and there's not a lot of flash. I mean, those two bits there are actually tabs. They're supposed to be there on that piece of detailed work there. That's quite nice. And then you've got some mounts. That's the recoil system for the 88mm gun. That's quite nicely moulded as well. And there's some bits and bobs, wheel hubs for the gun there. Yeah, quite nice. Quite nice indeed. I quite like the look of this. Looks like a nice kit. There's another wheel that's come off there. I'll have to put that in there in a minute. Some more wheels here. Again, they're quite nicely moulded. There's a bit of flash on some of those, but not a lot. Then you've got the piece for the 88mm gun. That's quite nicely moulded. And the chassis for the half track. And that's the side walls for the chassis. That's where all your wheels go on for the half track. And yeah, quite nice. And then at the end here, you've got this nice canvas moulded cover, which has got some texturing on it. I'm hoping that's going to come into focus for you so you can see it properly, but it's not doing it, is it? Oh, there you go. Quite nice texturing on that. And then you've got the rest of your four figures and your drive sprockets for the half track there. They're quite nicely depicted too. Again, quite nice detail. And the driver figure, not the driver figures. Well, there is a driver figure there actually. That's him. And other members of the crew. They're quite nicely depicted. They're not badly detailed, are they? And the shape on them isn't bad either. I think they'll paint up quite nice. So that's the parts. I'm not going to go pedantic and putting all this back in. I'm just going to put the lid on to give you guys something nice to look at whilst I read out all the gun. Let's put the instruction bits back in here. And then we'll look at what to do with this kit in a minute. There we go. Let's just read the gump, get this video closed, and then we can get going. The model we're doing today, the inbox review, is of the Airfix Kraus Maffei SD Kfz-7 half-track and Rheinmetall 88mm flak 36 anti-aircraft gun. The release date was 1967 and it's released in Series 2 and moulded in 1/76th scale. There are 112 parts on 5 sand plastic sprues and 2 vulcanized rubber tracks, producing 114 parts in total. The dimensions of the kit in total are about 7 inches long by 1.5 inches wide, and it should stand about 1.5 inches high on its tracks, and that includes the gun as well. It's about the same sort of size. Now, the options and costs, I've only really covered 1/72nd and 1/76 scale, and only options for the SD Kfz-7 and its associate versions, and the 88mm gun. And they come in standalone 1/76 scale. Airfix do the SD Kfz-7 Tractor and 88mm gun, and you can buy this kit for somewhere between £5 and £23. ADI also did an SD Kfz-7 Tractor, no pricings available on that, and they also did an 88mm gun, and again no pricings available on that. But you can buy a Fujimi 88mm gun offering for about £9 to £20, and apparently the Fujimi gun is not bad. There were a few kits reboxed in 76 scale. RI did an SD Kfz-7 Tractor and 88mm gun, which was a reboxed ADI kit. These would have been the two models combined in one kit. No pricings available on that. Bartman Fujimi did the 88mm reboxed Fujimi kit. No pricings on that. Grip also did the 88mm gun reboxed ADI kit. No pricings on that. The MPC SD Kfz-7 Tractor and 88mm gun reboxed Airfix kit, I've got no pricings on them, but they'll probably go for about the same price as the Airfix offering, between say 10 and 25 quid. MPC also did the Battle of Alamein set, which was the reboxed Airfix kit included in that set, and I've got no pricings on that, but I'm guessing it's quite collectible and probably quite pricey. There are also offerings in 1/72nd scale. AHM do an SD Kfz-7 Tractor, which apparently is quite nice, for about £10. Cromwell Models do an 88mm gun, which is a complete resin cast kit. I've got no pricings on that, but I've heard it's quite dear. Hasegawa did an SD Kfz-7 Tractor for about £12 to £14. Hasegawa also did an SD Kfz-7-1, which had a 20mm quad mount anti-aircraft gun mounted on the rear section of the tractor, and that retails about £9 to £12. They also did an SD Kfz-7-2 37mm anti-aircraft gun mounted on the rear of the tractor for about £10 to £31. Hasegawa also did an 88mm gun on its own, which comes out around about £7 to £18. They also did a Tobruk diorama set with an SD Kfz-7 and 88mm gun. No pricings available on that, but I'm guessing again that's probably quite collectible and therefore pricey. Mako did an they do an SD Kfz-7 Tractor. No pricings available on that. Orange Hobby do an SD Kfz-7 Tractor. No pricings on that. As do Planet Models. No pricings on there. Orange Hobby also do an SD Kfz-7-2 with a 37mm mount, no pricings on that, and a 7-1 with a 20mm quad mount, again no pricings on that. Revell have also released an SD Kfz-7 and an 88mm gun. They do these in 3 different boxings, one of just the tractor, one of just the gun, and one of the combined tractor and the gun. I haven't got any pricings on any of these, and they're quite relatively new releases by Revell, and I've heard that they're probably one of the best models of this subject on the market at the moment. Revell also do the 88mm gun. Sorry, the 88mm gun on its own is about £20 to £25. It gives you an idea on the costings and how much these kits were going to be from Revell. 4D model, they do an SD Kfz-7, which is no pricings available on that. There's another company called Triumph de Willens who do an SD Kfz-7-6, which I believe is a specialised version of the German half-track with an enormous, massive gun sticking out the front of it. There are repopped kits in 72nd scale, CMK SD Kfz-7-2 with a 37mm gun mount, which is a reboxed Planet kit. No pricings available on that. Hasegawa Hales do an SD Kfz-7 reboxed Hasegawa kit for about £20. They also do an SD Kfz-7-2 37mm mount gun reboxed Hasegawa kit for no pricings, and an SD Kfz-1 20mm quad mount anti-aircraft gun mounted on the rear of the tractor, reboxed Hasegawa kit with no pricings available on that. Hasegawa Hales also do an 88mm gun, reboxed Hasegawa kit, no pricings available on that. Lindbergh do an SD Kfz-7, which is a reboxed AHM kit, no pricings available on that. Lindbergh also do an SD Kfz-7 and 20mm anti-aircraft mount, that's a 7-1, which is a reboxed AHM kit, modified. And Lindbergh Nicomesia do an SD Kfz-7 reboxed AHM kit for no pricings available on that. And Minicraft Hasegawa do an SD Kfz-7 reboxed Hasegawa kit for no pricings available on that. And they also do an 88mm gun reboxed Hasegawa kit, no pricings available on that. Paget Brothers do an SD Kfz-7, which is a reboxed Hasegawa kit, which is comprised with 3 other models, producing a 4-kit set pack. This kit is not that easy to get hold of, but it does come up on the eBay market, second-hand markets here and there, and it retails for something between £11 and £17. Popeye do an SD Kfz-7 reboxed Hasegawa kit for about £7 to £10. They also do an 88mm reboxed Hasegawa kit for about £4 to £8. Revell have reboxed a Mako kit of the SD Kfz-7, no pricings available on that. They've also reboxed the SD Kfz-7-1 20mm quad mount, reboxed Hasegawa kit for about £7 to £15, as is the SD Kfz-7-2 with a 37mm single mount from Revell, reboxed Hasegawa kit for £7 to £15. And Science Treasury do an SD Kfz-7 Reeboks Tasegawa kit for £7 to £15, and they also do an 88mm gun Reeboks Tasegawa kit for £4 to £8. Right, conclusions. It states on the kit box that this kit is a skill level 2, and I think that may well be a fair statement, as the track and wheels are supposed to move, and the kit is quite a complicated build with a comprehensive 88mm gun and towing bogies. The gun elevates and rotates, so that's quite nice too. It is quite accurate, and the 1967 tooling is still quite clean and flash free. There are 4 figures in the kit that sit in the tractor, so there's no stupidly posed gun crew in this one, thank God. And I have built this kit before, so I'm not expecting any issues with it. And I think if you got hold of one to build yourself, I think you would find the same thing. Anyway, I hope this video has been of use. This concludes the inbox review of this kit. As I said, it is for Moss's 6510's Roycross buddy build, and I'm hoping to try and get this finished because the buddy build closes in 4 weeks' time. If you're interested in being included in the buddy build, I think you have to subscribe to his channel, and then you can get the rules and regulations. But you do need to submit a photograph of your finished product with the Roycross artwork in the back, in other words the box top on the background, so that he can see that it's definitely Roycross artwork on the kit. Anyway, I hope this video has been of use. If you've got any questions, queries, any comments, just pop them in the comments box, and if I need to get back to you, I will. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.